Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wärtsilä Energy Transition Lab webcast. I'm here again with Matti Rautkivi. Hey, Matti, how are things?
Hi, Björn. Good. How about yourself?
Yeah, we are still steaming here. Fresh off the analysis last week, together with Fingrid's president and CEO Jukka Ruusunen, where we talked about the transparency in the system, the supply and demand situation, and what happens then with pricing. Matti, just bring us up to speed. What's happened now in the past couple of days?
Yeah. So first of all, I think we have seen some kind of a bottom now with the COVID situation. So the load was this week, the last week, around 57 terawatt hours, and if we compare that to the week before it was around the same 56 and a half terawatt hours. So the load is quite stable, or that of course it's down still compared to the previous year, but it's not going down anymore as we have seen from week to week. So that definitely something that people are now following, of course, that when we get rid of the restrictions and or ease the restriction, that do we see that this is now the load is going back up and what are the implications of that? I think that's one of the main points of the big picture. But then I think Björn, in general the week was really interesting. So that's kind of a macro level, but let's drill down that what actually happened during the week, and as we always start from Germany, just because it's the largest system. From April 18 to April 25th, almost 70% renewables on average. And then we see here 20th, 21st, 22nd, where the really heavy renewables. So first of all, on 20th, we see that the renewables were more than 70%, so 76%. 21st, they were 78%, and still on 22nd, 74. So that last week, when you got your wow moment up with 75, we actually exceeded that this week. And what happened here was that I've been warning or talking about that it was a windy day at the same time when it was really sunny day. So both wind and solar were there and causing this kind of high renewable cases. And of course, it's if we look once again that how did it look like over these three days? So a lot of wind. I think in around 30 gigawatts, 32 gigawatts of wind, and on top of that you have that kind of a 30 gigawatts of solar. So sunny and windy day. It led to a same kind of situation than the previous week that we have 14 gigawatts of electricity pushed out from Germany, and it's then reflected the same case that prices hit negative 26 euros, then 44 and 84 euros per megawatt hour. So it's funny that we see this kind of record. We see the record renewable amounts. We see the record negative prices every week when we talk. But what makes this week, I think, really interesting is that actually this week describes the kind of the future challenge in a 1 week, and you can see here that it was really windy during this the light green one here, and then on 23rd actually it calmed down, and we don't have basically any wind here. So we got around 1 gigawatt of wind here in Germany, while it was just 2 days before it was 30 gigawatts. And it's then reflected the other way around, that we see price spikes around 70 euros per megawatt.
Right. So
and that's not, yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah, no, just to summarize here for listeners here. So load stabilized, and we see that we're now at some sort of a bottom, like you said. And then just like you predicted, or that you said, if we have windy and sunny days with this demand situation, you will hit the kind of record levels where we are now. Now, can you just rehash for me here? When the wind dies, you get a price spike, and we talked last week about the the value of flexibility in such a system. So this is then the flip side of that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's a flip side of that, and that we see more volatility. We see those negative prices, and what Jukka Ruusunen mentioned also, that's kind of an indication that some people or some generation is not doing what they're supposed to do, like nuclear plants or coal plants. They just don't want to shut down because it's too expensive for them, and that's why we see those negative prices. But on the other hand, we start to see also those kind of high prices when there is a need for flexibility. And we put an interesting analysis there together with you that's showing that how energy storage is making more money with these cases. And now when we start to see price spikes to the both direction, this is obviously for a business case also for the, bigger type of plants. And right. Many times I think I want to highlight, Björn, one thing here that people talk about grids, and we just that we can solve this with just building more transmission lines. And as you saw, that Germany pushed out 14 gigawatts of electricity last week, which is evidence of that. But actually, if we looked at Germany, it was really windy on 19th, 21st to 22nd. And if you look UK, look what is here. So it's exactly the same days when it's windy in UK. Right. So you have the same issue in the UK. So UK is actually also exporting during these days. It is the same thing in Ireland that we looked at what is happening. So similar kind of thing that it has been windy and then it calms down. So when these low pressures come from the Atlantic, we have windy periods cross out to Europe, and when we don't have those, we need some flexibility. So just relying on the grid that it will be always windy some part of Europe is actually not valid point. It's not true that you need to solve this flexibility challenge in many ways, and not only relying on one form.
I think that's a key takeaway in terms of that the weather doesn't really take into consideration geography in the same sense that the system does. Looking forward then, Matti, we clearly have an oversupply situation here, with really interesting dynamics, I think, on system level and on kind of local level. What are your expectations? What might this lead to?
Well, I think that there is a good example of this. If we look to Nordic countries, and when we talk about this period, what we are living now, it's a kind of shoulder period in the energy industry, that you have a low load, it starts to be sunny, it starts to be windy, and the system is quite kind of I don't say unstable, but there is a lot of volatility. But I think one interesting thing to follow is now that we see 78% renewable in Germany, will be probably 80% in near future. And at the same time, if we look data from Norway now, and we talk about Norway before, that from 1st of January until last week, the price has been declining all the time, and it has been really low levels in April, around 4 or 5 euros per megawatt hour. And the reason behind this is that there is a lot of snow in Norway, and that starts to melt now in a couple of weeks. And the Norwegian hydro is pushing the reservoirs empty, that they can fill those in. And now it's a really record level of snow. So what can happen, or it's interesting to follow, that will happen, that will Norwegians just sell this excess electricity to Europe, even with the negative prices, that somebody will take those? Or will this kind of, and if this lasts now for until summer or until August, that do we see that in Germany or across Europe we start to see this kind of baseload generation to stop, and there is more room for renewable electricity? So really interesting to see that, do we see those kind of high renewable cases, and what is the kind of a price indication here? Do we see negative prices for the long period of time, and will that lead then to them shutdown of baseload type of generation, and kind of once again stabilize the prices a little bit? So it's not only windy and sunny, it has been really snowy in the Nordics, and now this all come together. So, and it comes all together in May, which is a shoulder month. So even with the middle of the crisis, I think this is a really excellent opportunity to analyze and understand the
Really.
future powers. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Great. All right. I think that's a lot of things coming together, like you said, and the weather risk here and the weather exposure, I think, is super fascinating. Stay tuned. Let's continue the discussion in the next webcast. In the meantime, I encourage everybody who's listening to engage in the conversation, have a look at the tool, and start to play around with the data and see what this means for your particular country. Stay tuned. We'll be back and watch this space. Thank you, Matti.
Thanks, Björn. Bye-bye.